It has been a great honor, and I'm very much impressed and pleased to be part of this event today. And I must thank the organizers for choosing me this year. You would have heard many wonderful speakers in the past and shared a lot of valuable things and information about Saheb Ambedkar and his accomplishments and his contributions and thought process. But sometimes events like this, celebrations especially on Dr. Ambedkar's birthday, sometimes are considered as paying tribute to his accomplishments, his contributions, and his hardships he had rendered throughout his life. But I feel it should not stop there with just simply paying tributes to him, because even the 8th grade student knows about who is he, what is his accomplishments, and what are all his deeds, virtues, and contributions. So reiterating again and again, of course, is very important in the history to update ourselves on the thoughts of Ambedkar. That is true. Sometimes talking about Ambedkar has become a passion, and it has become a fashion as well. There is no exception in this country, be it a political party, an NGO, or a professional organization, or a government agency. No one can surpass and bypass Dr. Ambedkar. The reason is, to some of them, it's a compulsion, especially to political parties, whether they like it or not. It's a compulsion that they must talk about Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. But there are people who talk about Ambedkar for fashion. It has become a trend to talk about Dr. Ambedkar. Beyond this, sometimes we take pride in talking about Ambedkar. But the issue is, if we go beyond the pride, I'm worried. Sometimes Ambedkar has become a cult. I think a leader should be remembered on his thoughts. And we have to all, if we are truly committed to his thought, we have to work toward and taking the legacy forward in accomplishing the unfinished job of Dr. Ambedkar. That's what I will feel that as true Ambedkarites or followers should do. But sometimes we pay tribute and stop there, period. Nothing beyond had happened. This is worrying me sometimes when Ambedkar has become a cult now. Sometimes some of them also worship him. That is the dangerous part. That will really, the sacredness he was fought against throughout his life in the name of religiosity, the sacred faith. I think that is the danger. The true followers of Ambedkar's nowadays, we have to think about where did he live? What are his unfinished jobs? We know the finished jobs of Dr. Ambedkar. I could quote the Constitution. Even though the Constitution is taking several amendments, and there is no Constitution in the world that is perfect. So in that aspect, Dr. Ambedkar himself was not satisfied with his Constitution. He mentioned several times. If I can quote, he said, "It ensures the political democracy. But what we are looking for is a social democracy. Political democracy gives the shape to the nation, to the country, for the country to run, to function within a legal framework. But social democracy lies in the society. Whether the society is fit to execute, to implement and to practice social democracy or not. 1,500 years it was not. Even today it is not. This is where I thought Dr. Ambedkar left. I think that the gathering today is to remember his thoughts, is to contemplate on issues and the thought process, to contemplate on how to carry forward the legacy that he has left behind us. And in the way in which how to reinvigorate ourselves in our commitment to the cause for which he has been committed throughout his life. And if we are truly talking about Ambedkar, this is what I think that we have to do. We have to think ahead. The times then when Ambedkar lived are different from the time now. You take any aspect except the caste system, everything else changed. The economic dimensions, the political dimensions. The economy has changed a lot. The economic system has changed a lot from a primitive economic conditions to knowledge economy nowadays, service economy, and then industrial economy, and then IT, knowledge economy. So it has treaded through ascending upward in a taking different perspectives. And the society, the cultural values are now, completely broken. The cultural invasions from foreign cultures, the amalgamation of different cultures across the world, after especially the globalization, is taking really, really rapidity in the way in which it was unlikely to grow those days, but now it is likely to happen. And the technological impact to the artificial intelligence and many other, quantum mechanics and a lot of technological breakthroughs are penetrating the way in which we are thinking. Our conscious state of mind is being altered. Our consumer pattern is being altered. We are not the same as before. So, what are the relevance of the thoughts of Dr. B.R. Ambedkar in today's challenges? We are facing challenges, questions, doubts, problems, but there seem to be no solutions for them. We cannot go to the grave of Dr. Ambedkar to reinvent and wake him up to come to give us the solution. We have to think. My question is, I just want to limit my speak just to only one idea. I think it is the biggest idea, unfinished idea of Dr. Ambedkar. That is social democracy. So the social democracy, has it been provided in the Constitution or not? Yes, it was. In the preamble, it was very much stated, very expressly stated, liberty, fraternity, and equality. Liberty, fraternity, equality are the symptoms of a social democracy. But the virtues of social democracies are what? As Ambedkar always used to say, as quoted by his teacher John Dewey, long back in the year 1916 when he published his book, Democracy and Education. At that time, Ambedkar was a student. And he always proud to quote the virtues of society such that a society must have associated living, the condition of associated living. If the society and the members of the society and the units of society are not able to lead an associated kind of living, it is unfit to be called a society. That is why Ambedkar rejected Indian society is not at all a society. It is the societies of society. That is how he called. There is no one society in this country. There are thousands of societies because thousands of castes, watertight compartments, no exchange of ideas, no shared values. Please don't misunderstand if I say shared values. Shared values doesn't mean accepting the values. If I eat beef and you don't, I respect you. You respect me. That is the shared value. I'm not going to say, don't eat beef if you don't. You either don't say to me, don't eat beef, or eat beef. That is the value. Shared value. That is the very much fundamental condition of a society. John Dewey said, I just quote his teacher instead of Dr. Ambedkar. Conjoint communicated experience. What is that? A society must be prepared to share the experience. Human experience is knowledge. If you talk about the epistemology, human experience is the knowledge. Knowledge stems from experience. And the experience should be shared. Your experience, my experience, his experience, everyone's experience should be shared. And it must go through a dialectical process. At the end of the day, you will get the truth. And the truth is nothing but the knowledge. My question now is, do we have a social system to have a conjoint communicated experience? I don't know, maybe I'm not the author. I can bring support of Dr. Ambedkar and John Dewey. If a society lacks associated living, conjoint communicated experience, shared values, and the exchange of ideas, and lack tolerance, it is not a society. Tolerance is very important. Tolerance, again, I wouldn't say that it is accepting some nonsense. You are not tolerating any nonsense, so no nonsense. But still you have to practice tolerance. Say, for instance, if somebody is proposing idea and that is unacceptable to you, you just simply consider that and reject it intellectually if you want to so, if you want to claim so. If you lack tolerance, then the epistemic motion of the knowledge will be fundamentally obstructed. The motion of knowledge will be fundamentally obstructed if you are not tolerant to ideas. Not all ideas are bad. Not all ideas are good. So the society must go through the process of a dialectical movement of knowledge, ideas, values, culture, so that as the resultant culture, the resultant value system, the resultant knowledge will be the truth acceptable to all. That is the basic principle of society. Unless the society is democratic and socially democratic, that society cannot achieve all these things. The moment Indian society traded into the caste system 1,500 years ago, we lost the epistemic movement. If you look at 2,000 years back, I don't know the North Indian things, but in Tamil Nadu I know that. I researched much. 2,000 years ago, we were the pioneers in proposing the anthropocentric lifestyle, which was something like, dialectical materialism, I would say, Sangha period. At the time, the highest level of epistemic outcomes in the name of Sangha literature, medicine, and environmental studies and environmental living, all were on par with global standards. And science, I mean the primitive science, was there. But where did we lose that epistemic motion of the society? The moment when we became caste. Because once you are divided and segregated, divided into different castes, and you are not able to communicate with each other, with your experience, with your ideas, and you are not sharing your values, then eventually you end up with no progress in knowledge development. That is no progress. That is why you could see the science and technology and the literature and humanities, everything in all spheres of knowledge. Last 1,500 years, there was no breakthrough knowledge in Indian system of knowledge. All the knowledge that we have developed were just 2,000 years backdated. What is the root cause? It is the social system. And the social system lacked these social virtues, and these social virtues should be addressed. And that is what Dr. Ambedkar tried throughout his life. He wrote, but at the end of the day, he wrote the Constitution. But the Constitution has all the provisions. Why not then we are not able to practice the constitutional provisions of the socialness? The socialness or social virtues inbuilt into the Constitution is not getting realized in the society. What is the main reason then? Very simple. Constitution cannot inculcate, cannot create that kind of human beings. Constitution, using its laws and legislations, can only punish the violators. That is what Constitution can say, can do. Constitution has a limitation. That is why Ambedkar said that this is a political democracy. Please don't have high hope on it. Unless you achieve social democracy in the society, this constitutional democracy laid out in the Constitution will mean nothing. Nothing. And it has become nothing now. Even after 70 years. There are a lot of hue and cry being made on the Constitution, that the Constitution is not working in recent times, and in recent times for the challenges and questions we have, the Constitution is not working. Sometimes you know that the governors are how working, right? Sometimes we claim that why do we need governors in the first place as an impediment? Okay, I don't know, I'm not the constitutional expert, right or wrong. If you want to amend it, no problem. And center-state relations. And between unionization, too much unionization of the Constitution as opposed to federalization of Constitution is still pending. At the time when India had more than 50 princely states, it had to be unionized. A more strong union constitutional provision should be there to unionize the India. Maybe at the time Ambedkar was under pressure to unite the nation into one at the time. Maybe the federalism was a little bit put back-seated. But now we are strengthened, unified one nation now. Now we want to have more federalism because India is comprised of a multitude of cultures, languages, and different aspirations. So the Constitution must address this. If you want to change it, no problem. I don't mind if you go and amend the Constitution. But what cannot be amended is the fundamental spirit laid out in the Constitution. The fundamental spirit laid out in the Constitution, the theme laid out in the Constitution, that is the basic tenets of the Constitution, the liberty, fraternity, and equality, that no one can alter. Because these are the binding factors that made India unique and unified even after 70 years of independence. Imagine if these three tenets are not provided in the Constitution, I'm quite sure India wouldn't have existed as of now. So without violating the spirit of the Constitution, without altering the fundamental tenets of the Constitution, if you can amend the Constitution, you do that. No problem. It has already been amended so many times in the independent India. But the question before us is, the social democracy is laid out in the Constitution, but it is not happening in the society. It's the question. Unfinished job of Dr. Ambedkar. That is what, if at all, if anyone claims to take his legacy forward, should take this and work out. Why not we give a thought to it? We are scared. We are scared to talk about Ambedkar now. Why? if we are really the followers or the children of Dr. Ambedkar, why do make mistake, trial and error, come out with the best solution and implement it? But that is not happening. Let us now fix what is that social democracy is about. As I said, that the social virtues, if there in the society, and then you can call it a social democracy. The social virtues are equality. The social virtues are conjoint communicated experience, tolerance, democracy, social democracy, and associated living. If these ingredients are there in the society, you have achieved social democracy. But the Constitution is claiming social democracy, the society is opposing social democracy, and society wants to stick on with the caste system, deep divided further again and again and again. And the society is reinventing inequality. I have written in my report, in the education report. Education is reproducing inequality. I dare to write that document in the policy document. I have written it. But why it was not addressed since Dr. Radhakrishnan, the first author of the first education policy in the country, Dr. Radhakrishnan, then Lakshmana Swami Madaliyar, and then after some time, Kothari. There are so many other luminaries wrote policies, but why they have missed this idea? That is another point. But let us now come to the social democracy. So the social democracy is to be fixed now. And the society is opposing social democracy, and the Constitution is insisting social democracy, and there is a dichotomous situation. The dichotomous situation is Constitution is opposing society, society is opposing Constitution. And we have to fix somehow. That means there are two nations in this country. Constitutional nation as steered by the Constitution of India. A notional nation of the society that is steering the society. One is looking at east, another one is looking at west. There is no commonality between the society and the Constitution. This is the fundamental problem of this country. The progressive democracies like United States, say for instance, I quote one incident, how the social democracy works. The social democracy works when the notion of the society is representative of the total society. The notion of the society. If the notion of the society, take for instance in United States of America, abortion. Abortion is an idea. The church 200 years ago protested and it banned abortion. It did not allow abortion. The religiosity was playing the major role in the United States and Europe. So abortion was banned. But now, there are 50 states in the United States of America. And the Texas states feel, no, I don't want abortion. Okay. If that is the notion of the society, and the law is abiding by that society, and the law is making its own law, okay, no abortion. And if a Michigan state where I lived, if that state wanted abortion, and if that is the notion of the society, and the law is made on that notion accordingly, and there is abortion there. So among the 50 states, there is no one law. One state bans abortion, another state accepts abortion. This is the notion. So the notion of the society, if it is reflected in the Constitution, then the Constitution will work tandem. But this poor man, Dr. Ambedkar, knew all the things. And he had to work against the society which doesn't want social democracy. But he wanted, at least in his period, to be placed in the Constitution. He did it. He did his piece. What did we do afterwards in the independent 70 years of independent India? So that means the notional nation, on one hand, is more dangerous, more dangerous than the constitutional nation. So the notional nation is divided, is derived and designed by the society. And if the society is undemocratic, the notion of the society will be represented only by the dominant community. The dominant community in any given society, whether it is India or everywhere. I'm not quoting any individual society here. If the society is undemocratic, and those who are having the social authority and having upper hand in the society will be the author of the notion of the society. So 1,500 years back, there was a notion. One born from here, another born from here, another born from here, another born from the foot. That was the notion of the society at that time. And whose notion it was? The dominant community. The inventors of this system was the dominant community. Okay. Then how about the majority people accepted it? Why? Are they fools? They are not fools. But that is the system of the society. In a given society, if the society is undemocratic, and if the society has some community having an upper hand in the social evolution, and their notion, their aspirations become the notion of the society, and that is the representative of the total society. That is the problem in this country, which is very peculiar, unique, and different from other parts of the world. So now, my question is how to make the social democracy ensured in day-to-day practice. It is to make the notion of society really representative of the society. To make the notion of the society really representative of the society. A society is comprised of too many communities, caste, creed, and ideas. And these segments and individual members of the society should have a space in collectively executing their consciousness. If a society wants to ensure that this is the notion of the society, that means it must be the result of the collective consciousness of the society. That means every member and every unit, social unit among the society should be able to contribute to the collective notion. And only then you can call it as the notion of the society. And that didn't happen. Till today, it's not happening. India is getting spearheaded, and it is steered in the direction of the dominant society in all spheres: society, social, economy, education, politics, everywhere. That means, how are we going to fix it? I told you already that the Constitution will not come to rescue us. Constitution will not come to rescue us, because Constitution will only penalize the violators. That's it. That's the limitation of the Constitution. The notion of the society, if is to be made the collective representative of the total society, then the society, the component individual members and the units of society should be empowered in such a manner so that the social virtues are inculcated on day-to-day practice. It is like chicken and egg. You cannot make the society to practice this social virtues: equality, freedom, democracy, tolerance. These are the social virtues. You cannot, because the society is already opposing it. Then how to fix it? So now the national education policy has taken its hand through education to inculcate its ideals. At the age of 3, through early childhood care education, at the age of 3, all children are going to be taken over by the government, by the education system. And I am now thinking whether the notion of society can be reflected through the educational uplift or the educational system. Because the notion of the society happens within the society itself. No one can come, no education can go and do anything there. But the idea here is it possible for education to prepare the humankind from the age of 3 to practice that social virtues? That is on one hand. On the other hand, why I'm linking this with education and other segments of the nation is that the virtues of society are the same or virtues for science, scientific temperament. So to achieve scientific temperament and science, scientific growth, scientific development, and the epistemic motion, the knowledge movement, in raw terms, the knowledge movement, to happen in the right perspective, there are virtues. And the virtues are nothing but one and the same of the social virtues. So the social virtues, scientific virtues, and the epistemic virtues are one and the same. That is the fortunate thing for me. All are one and the same. Say, for instance, take for instance one example in education. The higher order learning pedagogical system is cooperative learning, collaborative learning, critical learning. These are all the learning styles, the higher order learning styles, the pedagogical approaches. If you can address that pedagogical interventions, the higher order pedagogical interventions, using social virtues, you can achieve knowledge. You can inculcate the skills among the students, the children, so that the children will be prepared. Once they matured, they will be able to practice in the society. It is not a cookbook approach. It is a lengthy debate and a lengthy issues to be addressed, which this is not the platform for me to explain everything. So that means these social, virtues are one and the same for scientific virtues. For instance, dialectically knowledge moves. Dialectical means there must be exchange of ideas. If there is no exchange of ideas between us, and if there is no conjoint communicated experience between us, then the knowledge stops there. In that way, this particular social virtue is the same virtue for science, is the same virtue for knowledge development, epistemology. So that means conjoint communicated experience is the same virtue for scientific development, social development, and epistemic development, knowledge development. Same, equality. If you and me are not considered equal, how are we going to learn or dialectically engage the knowledge and ideas and come out with the resultant best possible knowledge? That will not happen. So that means there is a very critical thing involved here, is that the dialectical engagement of ideas and knowledge that penetrate and travels through the society across all members and result into the truth, that is the knowledge, and that is the wish we work for. If there is no equality, the knowledge cannot travel. If there is no conjoint communicated experience, the knowledge cannot be refined and find out its own truth. So the social virtues, the democratic virtues, the tolerance, and conjoint communicated experience, and whatever I said, the social virtues are the same virtues for you to develop scientific temperament and scientific ideas, and also knowledge development. So that means, in this way, this is connected to education. Why not? We set the agenda and fix and start from there in education platform, in educational system, at the age of 3. Why not we inculcate the righteous pedagogical interventions, approaches, and learning frameworks, so that the students will be able to acquire that knowledge, the accumulated knowledge over a time until they reach the age 17. Then they'll be matured. That's what John Dewey said. It is, the practice is to inculcate, impart from the mature to the immature, and make the immature matured. And that is what I feel that India should at least to start with. Maybe over a period of time, once couple of generations gone with this approach, and the same matured guys, once they are achieving adulthood and come back to the society, I think they will be able to start the process. Maybe it might take another 500 years or 200 years. We may not live to see. But we have already lived 1,500 years. Talking only. People might be, discouraging us. Oh, it cannot happen. But let us make the first step, roll over. Over a period of time, I feel that we will be able to achieve that. So what the point I'm trying to make is that the notion of the society is the dangerous. If the notion of the society is dictated, dominated by the dominant community, then you will never ever be liberated from the clutches of the social system that we have in India. And unless we democratize the society, the knowledge development, scientific temperament will not happen at all. And unless these three are happening, we cannot talk about the total liberation. So for that to happen, the social virtues are very important for us to get it practiced in the right spheres, at the right time, at right places. I feel that this is what I worked out also partially. I just gave the tip of the iceberg, and partially I addressed this in the education policy. And I regret that in the independent India, even though great luminaries wrote the education policy, they never touched this issue. Had they touched this and incorporated in the education policy properly, by now, I think that it may not require Jawahar Nesan to talk like this on this stage. But it never happened. It should happen. And whoever sits there in Delhi or at Chennai should take this message. And people should work for it. At last, we are all common man. Common man has a limitation. But if collectively, if all common men join together and work for it, it is the stronghold for us, and we will be able to achieve. So the unfinished job of Dr. Ambedkar should be taken over, and that is the only way by which we can pay tribute to him, not by just hailing him and just praising him or just making him as a cult. So I invite the citizens of this country to think about it. What I said could be right or wrong. Whatever I said, it is open to you. Debate it, correct it, and let us all show our solidarity in working for the cause of the society, just society. Let us work ahead of Dr. Ambedkar. Thank you very much for this opportunity.